So, you ready to get your hands on the Boss DD8? I don't blame you. It's probably the most versatile compact delay pedal, even within Boss's own lineup. I don't have a whole lot of other delay pedals, but I did my research and I wanted one final delay on my pedal board to rule them all. I have two others on there right now. I have the Walrus Audio ARP87, which is probably the next video series I will do. It's also one of my favorite pedals. I have the delay reverb on the board right now from NewX, the Atlantic Delay Reverb, which is a lot more simple. Anyway, today we're talking about the Boss DD8 digital delay, so here we go. I've made up these illustrations in Adobe Illustrator, and I'm animating them in After Effects so that I can once and for all give the down and dirty on how to easily remember these settings, and not to have to pull the manual out every time you want to switch something on the pedal. So here's the most simple explanation I can give. I think of it all in a certain order so that I can remember it. The first thing's easy to remember because it only has three parts. That would be the stereo output types. There are panning, wide stereo, and completely independent stereo modes. If you want an idea of how these sound, I have an extensive video that covers all of the different modes. This video is just to show you how to get to each setting. The default mode is completely independent stereo. This is great for when you want to keep your left and right channels completely separated. For instance, you might want to keep a modulation effect stereo integrity without really mixing it in with the delays. That's what this would be useful for, and it sounds great on its own, but you won't notice as much of a deep stereo field with a mono input as you would with panning and wide stereo modes with a mono input. So, here's the easy way to remember. Just start from loop and go to the left, counterclockwise. You'll see what I mean right now. First, you have to start by making the connection to the input A jack and leave nothing connected into input B. Next, while holding down the pedal's foot switch, make the connection into input B. After you plug into input B, it's instantly ready to be set. You can now release the pedal's foot switch. Now you can hang out for a second and check to see if the orange light is lit up. It's hard for me to tell what color it is, so you might not know if you got this right until after you set it. If it does turn orange, then you're good to go for the next step. Now that the orange light is solid, you need to just move the dial on the top far right. Whatever you set this to will determine which mode you're in. The only ones that really matter are the first three because anything after that is just panning mode again. So from right to left you have loop, analog, standard. It goes like this: panning, loop, wide stereo, analog, and completely independent stereo, standard. Once you select which setting you want, press the foot switch again and you'll see the orange light blink rapidly for a few seconds. That means it has been set to whatever setting the dial is on and you're ready to play. Okay, now moving on. To set the tap division, you will do the same procedure with just one small change. Instead of starting by plugging into A, you're going to start by plugging into B, nothing into A. That's what I was saying about working top to bottom. So now, hold down the foot switch and keep it held down while you plug in the input A cable. It should turn orange and be ready as soon as you plug into input A. You can now release the foot switch and choose your settings with the mode knob on the top right of the pedal. When you find the one you want, there are 7 of them, just press the foot switch and wait for the blinking light again. You're done. This one is a little more complicated to memorize. For this one, I also illustrated this chart. For that, I used Affinity Photo on my iPad. That was pretty fun. I haven't extensively used Photoshop for iPad since that came out, but I really like Affinity for its more complicated tools, and it's also made for iPad. I haven't run into many limitations yet with just doing simple graphics like this on Affinity. Moving on. Here's a diagram to help you remember. It goes in a logical order as you can see. The first 4, whole, half, quarter, and eighth notes, are easy to remember because it starts with whole note, and then you just keep dividing that in half until you get to eighth note. And of course you have the beautiful dotted eighth note. That's easy to remember because it's right after the eighth note when you're going counterclockwise starting at loop mode. So keep going for the last 2. They are quarter note triplet and eighth note triplets. Now, after you have set the tap division, you can remember that in glitch mode on the pedal, when you go back to choosing your delay type or mode, that the delay time is a quarter of the length in the chart. So you can experiment with that and get different sounds out of the glitch depending on which tap division setting you're in. I'll go over that in another video about glitch mode and the twist function. That's it. You should be able to go over this a few times, and hopefully it'll help you remember it. so you don't have to pull that manual out so often. Now, the last thing I wanted to tell you in this video is that you do not have to have an external tap switch connected to the tempo expression jack. You can just hold down the foot switch on the pedal for 2 seconds and the light turns green. This won't work in loop mode. The green light will start blinking at the tempo that you set it to. Please like and subscribe, especially if you made it this far, and I promise I will have more content out for you ASAP.